I was halfway to a family reunion. I didn't want to attend when my daughter whispered 4 words that made my blood run cold, and before I knew it, we were in a game of survival with people who shared our last name. The autumn highway stretched endlessly before us, but those 4 words changed everything. Sometimes a child's intuition is the only warning you get before your own family tries to destroy you. And sometimes, listening to that small voice is the difference between being a victim and being the one who walks away. My name is Rachel Monroe, and I should have known something was wrong the moment my daughter stopped drawing butterflies. That cold October morning started like any other in our small house on the outskirts of Flagstaff. The ponderosa pines outside cast long shadows across our kitchen table, where Lily usually attacked her cereal with the enthusiasm only an 8-year-old could muster. But not that morning. She sat there, spoon suspended halfway to her mouth, staring at nothing. "Sweetie, you okay?" I asked, pouring myself a second cup of coffee. Working at Summit Legal Aid Services meant I'd need the caffeine Fridays were always brutal with last-minute filings. Lily didn't answer. Instead, she pushed her bowl away and pulled out her drawing pad. The butterflies and rainbows that usually decorated every page were gone. In their place, she sketched dark, angular shapes, boxes within boxes, heavy black lines that seemed to press into the paper with unusual force. The phone rang, cutting through the morning silence. I checked the caller ID Melissa. My older sister had a talent for calling at the worst possible moments, usually to remind me of some family obligation I'd rather forget. "Rachel, honey." Her voice dripped with a sweetness that immediately put me on edge. Melissa only used that tone when she wanted something. "How are you and my favorite niece doing?" "We're fine. Mel, what's up?" "Well, I know this is short notice, but we're having a small memorial gathering for Grandpa tomorrow. Nothing fancy, just family. Over in New Mexico, at the old ranch house." I frowned. Grandpa had passed 3 months ago. We'd already had the funeral. A memorial, why now? "Oh, you know Mom. She found some of his things in storage and got all sentimental. She really wants everyone there. It would mean so much to her." I glanced at Lily, who had stopped drawing and was now listening intently to my side of the conversation. Her green eyes, so much like mine, held an expression I couldn't quite read. "I don't know. Mel, it's a long drive, and I have work on Monday." "Please, Rachel, when was the last time we were all together, and Lily hasn't seen her cousins in ages?" That was intentional. The last family gathering had ended with Mom criticizing my life choices, Melissa's husband making snide comments about single mothers, and me leaving early with a crying Lily. But the guilt card always worked on me. Despite everything, they were family. "What time tomorrow?" "Oh, wonderful around noon would be perfect. I'll text you the details." She paused. "Actually, I have something of Grandpa's that I've been meaning to give you. I'll drop it by tonight. Save you the trouble of picking it up tomorrow." Before I could protest, she'd hung up. I set the phone down and noticed Lily watching me, her small face serious. "We're going to see Aunt Melissa," she asked quietly. "Tomorrow, baby. We're going to a family gathering for great-grandpa." Lily returned to her drawing, but I noticed her hand trembling slightly as she gripped the crayon. The shapes on the page grew darker, more confined. One looked almost like a car, another like a house with too many shadows. That evening, I was washing dishes when headlights swept across our driveway. 7:45 p.m. Melissa was nothing if not punctual. I dried my hands and opened the door before she could ring the bell. "Hey, sis." She stood on my porch in her designer jeans and leather jacket, looking like she'd stepped out of a catalog. In her hands was a dark blue duffel bag, worn at the edges. This was in Grandpa's storage unit. Some old photos, his pocket watch, that sort of thing. Thought you might want to look through it. She pushed past me into the house, the bag seemingly heavier than it should be for just memorabilia. "Where's my niece?" "Lily, Aunt Melissa's here," I called. Lily appeared in the hallway, already in her pajamas. She stopped just outside the circle of lamplight, watching her aunt with those careful eyes. "Ah, there's my girl." Melissa set the bag down and opened her arms. Lily moved forward slowly, accepting the hug with the resignation of a child who knew it was expected. But then I saw something that made my skin prickle. Melissa's hand lingered on Lily's elbow, her fingers pressing in a way that seemed almost deliberate. When she pulled back, she was studying my daughter's face intently. "You've grown so much," Melissa murmured. "You're going to love seeing everyone tomorrow." Lily said nothing, just nodded and stepped back toward me. Her eyes never left the duffel bag. After Melissa left in a flurry of air kisses and promises to see us tomorrow, I found Lily standing in the living room, staring at where the bag sat by our couch. "Mom," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "do we have to go tomorrow?" I knelt beside her, brushing a strand of dark hair from her face. "It's just one day, sweetheart. We'll go, say hello to everyone, and come home. Easy peasy." She looked at me then with eyes too old for her years. "Promise." "I promise." If I had known what that promise would cost us, I would have thrown the bag in the trash, bolted our doors, and never answered another call from my family again. But I didn't know. Not yet. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that Melissa's visit had left something unsettled in our house. The duffel bag sat by the couch like an unwelcome guest, its presence somehow larger than its actual size. I'd meant to look through it after putting Lily to bed, but every time I approached it, something held me back. Around 10:30 p.m., I was pulling clothes from the dryer when I heard Lily's door creak open. Her bare feet whispered across the hardwood floor, stopping just outside the laundry room. "Can't sleep?" I asked, folding one of her school shirts. She shook her head, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Mom, can I tell you something?" "Always, baby." She glanced toward the living room where the bag waited. "When Aunt Melissa hugged me, she felt different, cold, and she smelled like—" She struggled for the words. "Like the doctor's office, but wrong." I set down the laundry, giving her my full attention. Lily had always been sensitive to things others missed: moods, tensions, the subtle shifts in a room's atmosphere. Some might call it anxiety. I'd learned to trust it as intuition. "And there was a man," she continued, her voice dropping even lower. "Outside, when Aunt Melissa was leaving." My heart skipped. "What man?" "He was standing by the big pine tree, wearing a long coat. Even though it wasn't that cold, he was watching our house." She pressed closer to me. "He had the same smell as Aunt Melissa. That medicine smell." I forced myself to stay calm, though every maternal instinct screamed alarm. "Did you see his face?" "No, but he was tall, and he kept touching something in his pocket." She demonstrated, her small hand mimicking a repetitive checking motion. "Like he was making sure something was still there." I pulled her into my arms, feeling her trembling against me. "You did the right thing telling me. How about you sleep in my bed tonight?" She nodded eagerly, and I carried her to my room, her weight familiar and comforting. As I tucked her in, she grabbed my hand. "Mom, the bag Aunt Melissa brought. Can we not take it tomorrow?" "Why, sweetheart." She was quiet for so long I thought she'd fallen asleep. Then, barely audible, "It feels wrong, like it's watching us." After she finally drifted off, I returned to the living room. The duffel bag sat innocuously by the couch, just canvas and zippers and whatever memories Melissa claimed were inside, but Lily's words echoed in my mind. I approached it slowly, as if it might suddenly move. The main compartment opened easily enough. Inside, as promised, were old photographs Grandpa in his army uniform, family Christmas gatherings from decades past, my parents' wedding photo. His pocket watch lay wrapped in tissue paper, its gold surface tarnished with age. Normal things, expected things. But the bag felt too heavy for just these items. I ran my hands along the interior, feeling for anything unusual. There, along the bottom, a seam that didn't quite match the others. My fingers found a hidden zipper, cleverly concealed beneath a fold of fabric. My pulse quickened as I pulled it open. Nothing. The hidden compartment was empty. But it hadn't always been. The fabric inside was compressed in rectangular shapes, as if something had been stored there recently. And there was that smell Lily had mentioned, sharp, chemical, like industrial disinfectant trying to mask something else. I sat back on my heels, mind racing. Why would Melissa give me a bag with a hidden compartment? What had been inside it, and why did she insist on delivering it personally the night before this sudden memorial? A soft sound from outside made me freeze. Footsteps on gravel, deliberate and slow. I killed the living room lights and crept to the window, peering through a gap in the curtains. A figure stood at the edge of our property, just beyond the reach of the streetlight, tall, wearing a long coat despite the mild weather. As I watched, he lifted something to his face binoculars, maybe, or a camera. Then he touched his pocket, that same checking motion Lily had described. My mouth went dry. I backed away from the window, grabbed my phone, and did what I should have done hours ago. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Tom Harrison, a detective I'd worked with at Legal Aid. His phone rang 4 times before he answered, voice groggy. "Rachel, it's pretty late." "Tom, I'm sorry, but I think someone's watching my house. There's a man outside." Instantly, his voice sharpened. "Are your doors locked?" "Yes." "Good. Can you see him now?" I risked another look. The spot where he'd stood was empty. He's gone." "I'll send a patrol car by. You want to tell me what's going on?" I hesitated, glancing at the duffel bag. How could I explain the crawling certainty that my own sister had brought danger to our door? "It's probably nothing. Family drama. I'm supposed to drive to New Mexico tomorrow for a memorial, and things have been strange." "Trust your gut, Rachel. If something feels off, it probably is. Call me if you need anything." "Okay." After we hung up, I did a final check of all the windows and doors, then returned to my bedroom. Lily had sprawled across my bed, one arm flung over her head, finally peaceful in sleep. I slipped in beside her, pulling her close. But I didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, listening to every creak and settle of the house, thinking about hidden compartments and watching strangers and the peculiar weight of family obligations, about how Melissa's fingers had pressed so deliberately against Lily's elbow as if checking for something, or marking something. By the time dawn crept through the curtains, I'd made a decision. We'd go to the memorial. Running would only raise questions, but I'd leave the bag behind. Whatever game Melissa was playing, I wouldn't be her pawn. I should have known it was already too late for such simple choices. The morning sun had climbed high by the time we reached Highway 89, 3 hours into our journey to New Mexico. I'd left the duffel bag hidden in my bedroom closet, buried beneath winter coats. Lily had been unusually quiet since we'd left Flagstaff, her drawing pad untouched on her lap, eyes fixed on the side mirror. The road stretched endlessly through high desert country, dotted with juniper and sage. Few cars passed us heading north. I'd begun to relax, telling myself that last night's fears were just paranoia, when Lily suddenly straightened in her seat. She didn't move for a long moment, her entire body rigid. Then, without turning her head from the windshield, she spoke 4 words that changed everything. "Turn the car around, now!" The tone wasn't her usual voice. It was flat, certain, and absolutely terrified. My hands tightened on the wheel. "Lily, what's wrong?" "Please, Mom, turn around, now!" Her voice cracked on the last word, and I glimpsed tears sliding down her cheeks in the rearview mirror. I'd never heard her sound like that. Without hesitation, I hit the brakes and pulled onto the dusty shoulder. The car shuddered to a stop, engine ticking in the sudden silence. A semi roared past, rocking us in its wake. "Sweetheart, talk to me. What's happening?" She was breathing too fast, almost hyperventilating. I unbuckled and turned in my seat to face her properly. Her face was pale, eyes enormous. I can't explain it," she gasped. "But we can't go there. We can't. Something bad is waiting." "Did you have a nightmare? Is this about last night?" She shook her head violently. "No, it's real. It's now." She fumbled with her seatbelt, hands shaking. "Mom, please, trust me. Turn the car around." I'd raised Lily alone since she was 2. I'd learned to read her moods, her needs, her fears. I'd never seen her like this, not during thunderstorms, not at the doctor's office, not even when she'd broken her arm falling from the monkey bars. This was different. This was primal terror. "Okay," I said softly. "Okay, baby. We're going home." I checked the mirror's empty road in both directions and made a U-turn across the median. The moment our car faced north, toward home, Lily's breathing began to slow. She slumped in her seat as if all her strings had been cut. We drove in silence for several minutes. Then she reached for her drawing pad, flipping past the dark sketches from yesterday to a fresh page. Without looking at what she was doing, her hand moved across the paper in quick, sure strokes. "Mom," she said quietly, "I need to tell you something." "I'm listening." "Last night, after Aunt Melissa left, I saw more than just the man outside." She kept drawing, not meeting my eyes. "I went to get some water, and I saw her car hadn't left yet. She was parked down the street, talking on her phone." My chest tightened. "Could you hear what she was saying?" "The window was cracked. She said, the package is in place. They'll bring it across tomorrow." And then she said your name. And something about, she won't suspect anything. She never does. The road ahead blurred for a moment. I blinked hard, forcing myself to focus. "Why didn't you tell me this last night?" "Because," her voice got very small, "because I was scared you wouldn't believe me. Aunt Melissa is family." Family. The word tasted bitter now. "And there's something else," Lily continued, still drawing. "Remember when she hugged me? She pressed something against my arm. It felt like when the doctor gives you a TB test, a little circle of pressure." I nearly swerved off the road. "She gave you an injection." "No, not sharp, just pressure. But afterward, my arm felt weird, tingly." She finally looked up, holding out her drawing pad. "Mom, I drew what I saw in my head when she touched me." The sketch made my blood run cold. It showed the duffel bag, but opened to reveal not photographs and watches, but packages wrapped in plastic. Below that, she'd drawn a black SUV with tinted windows, and at the bottom, a figure in a long coat standing at what was unmistakably our front door. "Lily," I said carefully, "are you saying you saw these things when Melissa touched you?" She nodded miserably. "I know it sounds crazy, but it was like she put pictures in my head by accident, like she was thinking about them so hard that I could see them too." I'd stopped believing in coincidences about 5 minutes ago. Whatever my daughter had experienced, intuition, premonition, or something else, the message was clear. We were being used, set up, and probably followed. As if to confirm my fears, I noticed a silver Chevy Suburban in my rearview mirror. It had appeared from nowhere on this empty stretch of highway, maintaining a steady distance behind us. "Lily," I said, keeping my voice calm, "I need you to do something for me. Without turning around, can you look in your side mirror and tell me if you've seen that silver car before?" She glanced at the mirror, then stiffened. "That's him, the man from last night. He was getting into that car when I saw him by the pine tree." My mind raced through options. We were at least 90 minutes from Flagstaff, in the middle of nowhere. No cell service for miles. The Suburban was gaining ground, eating up the distance between us with predatory patience. "Mom," Lily's voice was steady now, the earlier panic replaced by determination. "Remember what Dad taught you about defensive driving." I almost smiled despite everything. before he died. Marcus had insisted on teaching me evasive driving techniques, a leftover from his time in military intelligence. "Keep your enemies guessing," he'd said. "Never be where they expect you to be." "I remember, baby." "Good," she said, gripping her armrest, "because I think we're going to need it." The Suburban was closer now, maybe 3 car lengths back. Through the tinted windshield, I could make out the silhouette of a single driver, waiting, watching, calculating exactly how far we'd get before making his move. "Mom, I need to show you something else," Lily said, flipping to another page in her drawing pad. Her hands were steadier now, as if having a purpose helped control the fear. "This is what I drew last night after you went to sleep." I risked a quick glance while keeping the Suburban in my peripheral vision. The sketch showed our house from the front, but details were wrong shadows where there shouldn't be any, dark figures positioned at strategic points. And there, clearly rendered despite being drawn by an 8-year-old's hand, was the same duffel bag being loaded into a different vehicle. "Lily, when did you—" "I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing things." She turned the page, another drawing the interior of a car, packages visible in the back, a sign that read, "Border checkpoint ahead." "Mom, I think Aunt Melissa wanted us to carry something bad, something illegal." The Suburban edged closer. I pressed harder on the accelerator, our speedometer climbing past 75. The empty highway stretched endlessly ahead, heat mirages shimmering on the asphalt. "There's more," Lily continued, her voice unnaturally calm for a child in danger. "In my dreams last night, I saw a man's face, the one who was watching our house." She produced another sketch angular features, deep-set eyes, a scar bisecting the left eyebrow. "He was in Aunt Melissa's living room 2 weeks ago when we stopped by to drop off those groceries. Remember, she said he was a plumber, but plumbers don't usually wear $1,000 watches." I finished, the memory clicking into place. The man had been sitting at Melissa's kitchen table, paperwork spread before him that looked nothing like plumbing estimates. "He smelled like metal and old cigarettes," Lily added, "just like last night. And Mom, in my dream, he was angry, really angry. He kept saying the package has to cross by noon. No delays." "Noon." I checked the dashboard clock, 11:15 a. We should have been arriving at the memorial right about now. Instead, we were heading in the opposite direction with a tail that was growing increasingly aggressive. The Suburban suddenly accelerated, closing the gap between us. Through the mirror, I could see the driver talking on a phone, gesturing sharply. Not good. "Hold on, baby," I said, scanning the road ahead. "Remember what Dad said about using the environment?" "Every road has hiding spots if you know how to look," Lily recited, gripping her seatbelt. There, a scenic pullout about a quarter-mile ahead, partially hidden by a cluster of rock formations. I maintained my speed, giving no indication I'd seen it. The Suburban crept closer, now only 2 car lengths back. At the last possible second, I yanked the wheel right and hit the brakes simultaneously. Our tires screamed as we skidded into the pullout, gravel spraying. The Suburban shot past, brake lights flaring as the driver realized his mistake. I didn't wait. The moment he passed, I pulled back onto the highway heading the same direction, but immediately took the first dirt road I saw a forestry access route that wound up into the hills. Dust billowed behind us as we climbed, the sedan bouncing over ruts and washboards. "Can you see him?" I asked, navigating a sharp turn. Lily twisted in her seat. "He's turning around, but I don't think he saw where we went. Too much dust." I pushed harder, following the road as it curved behind a ridge. After another minute, I spotted what I was looking for, a dense stand of ponderosa pines with enough space between them to hide a car. I pulled in, branches scraping against our windows, and killed the engine. In the sudden silence, we could hear our hearts pounding. Lily reached over and grabbed my hand, her small fingers surprisingly strong. "Mom," she whispered, "I need to tell you something else about the pictures in my head." I squeezed back. "What is it? Sweetheart. They weren't just random. When Aunt Melissa touched me, it was like she was checking to see if I could be useful, testing me. Her voice dropped even lower. I think she's done this before, with other kids, other families. The implications made me sick. How many times had Melissa visited relatives, bearing gifts, setting them up as unwitting mules? How many family reunions were actually drug runs? The man in the coat, Lily continued, in my dream. He called Aunt Melissa something, not her name. He called her Handler. Through the trees, I caught a glimpse of silver paint on the road below. The Suburban prowled past, slow and predatory, searching. I held my breath until it disappeared around the next bend. We can't stay here, I said, mind racing through options. But we can't go home either. They know where we live. Lily held up her drawing pad again. This time, the image showed something I hadn't expected: a police station, rendered in careful detail. Above it, she'd drawn a clock showing 12 o'clock. We need to tell someone, she said firmly. We need to stop them. Today, before they can hurt another family. My brave, brilliant daughter. Even terrified, even in danger, she was thinking about protecting others. You're right, I said, starting the engine again. But first, we need proof, and I think I know exactly where to find it. I thought about the duffel bag hidden in my closet, about the empty secret compartment that had once held something worth killing for, about my sister, who'd counted on my predictable nature and family loyalty to make me a perfect patsy. She'd made just one mistake. She'd underestimated Lily. Where are we going? Lily asked as I carefully backed out of our hiding spot. To spring the trap, I said, pulling out my phone and praying for a signal. But this time, we're going to be the ones setting it. The forest road wound down the opposite side of the ridge, spitting us out onto Highway 180 10 miles from where we'd entered. I kept checking the mirrors, no silver Suburban, but that didn't mean we were safe. These people knew our destination, our habits, our weaknesses. They'd find us again. Mom, he's back. My heart sank. In the side mirror, still distant but unmistakable, the silver vehicle emerged from a crossroad, but Lily shook her head. No, not that one. Different car. Look. She was right. This Suburban was darker, charcoal gray instead of silver. It maintained a professional distance, matching our speed perfectly. As I watched, another vehicle, a black Dodge Charger, appeared behind it. They moved in formation, practiced and patient. There were 3 of them at Aunt Melissa's, Lily said quietly. I remember now. The man in the coat. He had partners. They were looking at maps, pointing at different roads. Her voice grew smaller. They were planning for us to run. My phone finally caught a signal, 2 bars. Flickering. I voice-dialed Tom Harrison, praying he'd answer. 3 rings. 4. Rachel, everything okay? Tom, I need help. We're being followed. Multiple vehicles. I swallowed hard. I think my sister set me up as a drug mule. Silence. Then, where are you? Highway 180 heading toward Cameron. But Tom, they're professional. Listen carefully. There's a rest stop about 5 miles ahead. Painted desert overlook. Pull in there. Highway Patrol uses it as a meeting point. I'll have units waiting. They'll see us stop. They'll know. Trust me. You want witnesses for what comes next? The line crackled and died. I checked the mirrors again, both vehicles still there. Maintaining formation. Professional was right. These weren't street thugs. This was organized crime. Mom, Lily said, studying her drawings again. The man in the coat in my dream. He kept checking something. A phone, but different. Flat and black, with numbers that kept changing. GPS tracker, I breathed. Of course, the bag itself was never meant to carry drugs. It was bait. Plant the tracker. Follow the mule to ensure they stayed on course, then intercept at the destination. Use family to transport family, keeping their hands clean while we took all the risk. The painted desert overlook sign appeared ahead. My palms were slick on the wheel as I signaled the turn. Both pursuit vehicles immediately closed distance, no longer bothering to hide their interest. The rest stop was busier than I'd hoped, a tour bus disgorging elderly passengers, families posing for photos, truckers stretching their legs. I pulled into a spot near the main building, leaving the engine running. "Stay in the car," I told Lily, scanning for Tom's promised units. Nothing yet. The gray Suburban parked 3 spaces away. The Charger circled the lot like a shark, waiting. Through the Suburban's tinted glass, I could make out 2 figures. Neither moved to exit. My phone buzzed a text from Melissa. "Where are you, Mom's worried?" Then another, "The reunion started an hour ago." And another, "Answer me, Rachel, now." "Mom!" Lily's voice was steady but urgent. "That man's here. The one from my drawing." She was right. Walking across the parking lot with deliberate calm was the scarred man from her sketch. Dressed now in jeans and a Phoenix Suns cap, but unmistakably the same person. He wasn't heading for us. He was approaching the men's restroom. Just another tourist. But his path would take him directly past our car. "Lock the doors the second I get out," I said, grabbing my purse. "If anything happens, lean on the horn and don't stop." "Mom, no." "I'll be right back." I stepped out just as Scarface passed our bumper. Up close. I could smell it metal and stale cigarettes, exactly as Lily had described. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second. His widened in recognition, then narrowed with something like appreciation. "Smart kid you got there," he said conversationally, never breaking stride. "Real smart. Shame about the family business." He continued to the restroom. I stood frozen, processing the threat wrapped in casual words. Then I saw what Lily had seen, the small device in his hand, numbers scrolling across its surface. He was tracking something, or someone. A highway patrol cruiser pulled into the lot, followed immediately by another. They split up, one parking near the Suburban, the other by the Charger. Neither driver turned on their lights or made any aggressive moves, but their presence changed the entire dynamic. Scarface emerged from the restroom, took in the new arrangement, and smiled. He walked back to the Suburban with the same measured pace, pausing again at our car. "Tell Melissa we'll be discussing her performance review," he said, loud enough for Lily to hear through the glass. Career changes can be so difficult for single mothers. The threat against my sister should have meant nothing to me. She'd betrayed us, set us up, put Lily in danger. But the casual cruelty of it, the implication that Melissa herself was trapped in this web, added another layer to our nightmare. Both pursuit vehicles left the rest stop within minutes, melting back into highway traffic as if they'd never existed. One patrol car followed the Charger. The other pulled up beside us, window rolling down. "Ms. Monroe Tom Harrison sent us. You folks okay?" I nearly collapsed with relief. "Yes, we're okay." "We'll escort you wherever you need to go. Tom said you might have evidence of criminal activity." I thought of the bag at home, the GPS tracker probably still broadcasting our location. "I do, but first, I need to make sure my daughter is safe." "Mom!" Lily had rolled down her window, clutching her drawing pad. "Can I show them my pictures? The ones of the bad men." The officer leaned over, taking in my pale, determined 8-year-old. "You drew the suspects." Lily nodded solemnly. "I'm really good at faces. Daddy said I have a photographer's memory." "Photographic," I corrected automatically, then stopped. Because she did. Every detail in her sketches, the scar, the coat, the license plates she'd somehow glimpsed and recorded, it was all there. Evidence. Proof. "Young lady," the officer said seriously, "I think you just became our star witness." Lily straightened in her seat, fear transforming into something like pride. "Does this mean we get to stop them? Stop them from hurting other families?" "Yeah," I said, finally allowing myself to hope. "I think it does." My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Mom. "Melissa says you're not coming. What's going on? This is so typical of you. Rachel, family means nothing to you. I deleted the message without reading the rest. Family meant everything to me. I just had a different definition than they did. The highway patrol escort led us to the Flagstaff Police Department's main precinct, a modern building of glass and concrete that felt like the safest place in the world after our morning of terror. Tom Harrison met us in the lobby, his detective's shield clipped to his belt, face grim with concern. "Rachel, Lily," he said, kneeling to my daughter's level. "You both did the right thing coming here. Are you hurt?" "We're okay," I said, though my hands hadn't stopped shaking. "Tom, I need to show you something. The bag is at my house." "First things first." He guided us to a secure interview room, complete with toys and books in one corner for young witnesses. "I've got officers heading to your place now. Tell me everything." For the next hour, I laid out the whole story while Lily drew. She'd sketch a detail, slide it across to Tom, then start another. The scarred man, the Suburban's license plate, the interior of Melissa's kitchen with the plumber and his papers, each image more precise than any child's drawing had a right to be. "Your daughter has an extraordinary gift," Tom said, studying a particularly detailed sketch of the tracker device. "These are better than most witness descriptions we get from adults." "She gets it from her father," I said. "He had perfect visual recall too. Said it saved his life more than once overseas." Tom's phone buzzed. He listened, face darkening. "The bag's gone. Your neighbor saw someone at your house around noon, woman matching Melissa's description. She had a key." My spare key. The one I'd given Melissa years ago for emergencies. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd expected. "But here's the interesting part," Tom continued. "She was sloppy, left prints everywhere, and," he smiled grimly, "she didn't know about your nanny cam." I'd forgotten about the small camera hidden in the living room bookshelf, installed after a break-in scare last year. "You have footage. Crystal clear. Her, the bag, and her license plate. Plus, she made a phone call from your kitchen. We've got her voice, too." Another detective knocked and entered, carrying an evidence box. "Found these in the hidden compartment of the suspect's vehicle," she said, setting down several clear bags. "GPS trackers, burner phones, and what looks like shipping manifests." Lily suddenly grabbed my arm. "Mom, that's it. That's the paper I saw at Aunt Melissa's." She pointed to one of the manifests. The plumber was writing on exactly that kind. Tom examined the document through its evidence bag. "Routes, times, checkpoint schedules. This is a professional smuggling operation." He looked at me. "Your sister isn't just a participant. Based on what we're seeing, she's been recruiting mules from her own family for years." "There's more," the female detective said. "We pulled Melissa Hartman's financial records. Large cash deposits every few months, always just under the reporting limit. Goes back 3 years. 3 years. I thought of all the family gatherings in that time, all the relatives who'd made trips at Melissa's suggestion. How many had unknowingly carried contraband? How many had been lucky enough not to get caught? "I need to call my mother," I said suddenly. "If Melissa realizes we're not coming, she might—" "Already done," Tom said. "We have units positioned near the ranch. Your mother and other family members are safe, though they're about to get quite a shock." Lily tugged at my sleeve. "Mom, can I tell Detective Tom about the dream? The important part." I nodded, curious. She hadn't mentioned another dream. "In my dream," she said carefully, "I saw Aunt Melissa crying. She was in a small room, talking to someone I couldn't see. She said, 'They have my daughter.' She said I had no choice." The room went silent. Tom leaned forward. "Lily, does your Aunt Melissa have a daughter?" "She had a baby," Lily said quietly. "Before I was born. Mom told me once. But the baby went to live with her father because Aunt Melissa couldn't take care of her." I stared at my daughter. I'd mentioned Melissa's teenage pregnancy exactly once, years ago, when Lily had asked why she didn't have cousins. How did she remember? "What if they have her daughter?" Lily continued. her 8-year-old voice steady with conviction. What if that's why Aunt Melissa does bad things to keep her safe? Tom and I exchanged glances. It would explain so much: Melissa's sudden wealth, her isolation from the family, the desperate edge in her voice when she'd called about the reunion. "We'll look into it," Tom promised. "Every angle." He turned to me. "We need to move you both to a safe location while we coordinate with federal agents. This is bigger than just local law enforcement now." "Wait," I said, an idea forming. "What if we don't hide? What if we give them what they want?" Tom's expression hardened. "Absolutely not. You're not putting yourself in danger." "Listen, they expect me to show up eventually. Melissa will have some explanation for taking the bag. She'll say she forgot something, had to grab it. They'll be watching the roads, the house, waiting for us to surface." I took a breath. "So let's surface, but on our terms." "Mom," Lily said quietly, "are you thinking what I'm thinking?" I looked at my brilliant, brave daughter, who'd inherited more from her father than just perfect recall. She'd gotten his tactical mind, too. "The restaurant in Old Town," I said. "The one with the courtyard Melissa loves. Public, lots of exits, security cameras everywhere." "And across from the FBI field office," Lily added with a small smile. Tom stared at us both. "You want to set up a meet with your sister, draw them out." "She's family," I said, the words bitter but necessary. "She'll come if I ask, especially if I tell her I have what she's looking for." "Which you don't." "No," I agreed, "but I have something better. I have her on camera, taking it back, and I have a feeling she'll be very interested in making a deal when she realizes how much we know." Tom was already reaching for his phone. "I'll need to coordinate with the FBI, get surveillance in place. This is dangerous. Rachel." "They threatened my daughter," I said simply. "They used my family. They made me into a criminal without my knowledge. Dangerous was when I was driving blind with predators on my tail. This is justice." Lily slipped her hand into mine. "Daddy would be proud," she whispered. "Yes," I thought, squeezing back. "He would be." It was time to end this. The Old Town Cantina sat on a corner of Albuquerque's historic plaza, its adobe walls and bright umbrellas a perfect cover for what was about to unfold. I'd chosen it for exactly the reasons I'd told Tom public. Secure, memorable to Melissa as the place we'd celebrated her college graduation a lifetime ago. It was 3:45 p.m. when we arrived, Lily's hand tight in mine. The lunch crowd had thinned, but enough patrons remained to provide witnesses. FBI agents posed as tourists at nearby tables, cameras and phones at ready. Tom sat at the bar, nursing a coffee and watching the door. "I'd called Melissa an hour ago." The conversation was brief. "I have the bag. We need to talk." "Rachel, thank God. Where are you?" "The cantina in Old Town. You remember?" "I'll be there in 20. She'd arrived in 30, parking her white Mercedes illegally at the curb where everyone could see it. My sister walked through the door wearing designer sunglasses and a flowing sundress, looking every inch the successful businesswoman she pretended to be. Only the tension in her shoulders gave her away. "Aunt Melissa," Lily called out, playing her part perfectly. We'd agreed she'd act normal, even friendly. The performance made me proud and broke my heart simultaneously. Melissa's face cycled through relief, confusion, and calculation as she approached our table. "Rachel, Lily, I was so worried when you didn't show up." She air-kissed my cheek, her perfume thick with nerves. Mom's beside herself. "Sit," I said, gesturing to the empty chair. I'd positioned us so she'd have her back to the window and Tom's direct line of sight. She sat, removing her sunglasses. Up close, I could see the strain around her eyes, the way her manicured nails pressed into her palms. "Where's the bag?" "Safe," I said, "like we were supposed to be." Her smile faltered. "I don't know what you mean." Lily chose that moment to pull out her drawing pad. She flipped it open to a new page and began sketching. her movements casual but deliberate. Melissa's eyes tracked to the paper automatically and froze. My daughter was drawing the scarred man, perfect in every detail. "Lily's quite the artist," I said conversationally. "She's been drawing all sorts of interesting people lately, like your friend, the plumber." Melissa's hand moved toward her purse. Tom shifted at the bar. "Don't," I said quietly. "Whatever you're reaching for, don't." She stilled, then laughed a broken sound. "You don't understand, Rachel. You've never understood. Everything I've done has been for your daughter," Lily finished, not looking up from her drawing. "The one they took." Melissa went white. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "How did you—" "Because I see things," Lily said simply. "And I saw her. Brown hair like yours. Green eyes like mine. She's 11 now. Right." Tears slipped down Melissa's cheeks. Unchecked. "Sophie. Her name is Sophie." Her voice cracked. "They've had her for 3 years, since I tried to quit. They send me pictures, videos. She's safe as long as I—" She gestured helplessly. "As long as I do what they want." "Using your own family as mules," I said, fury and pity warring in my chest. Family was all I had access to. They gave me quotas. I had to recruit people who'd never be suspected, who had clean records. She leaned forward desperately. "I kept you out of it as long as I could. But they knew about you, about your job helping immigrants. You crossed the border for work sometimes. You were perfect. So you were going to let me go to prison, let Lily grow up without her mother." "No." She grabbed my hand across the table. "I would have warned you, found a way. I just needed to buy time until—" "Until what?" I pulled free. "Until they killed you, until Sophie aged out of usefulness. When does it end?" "Melissa." She was sobbing now, quietly but desperately. Several patrons glanced our way. Perfect. I pulled out my phone and showed her the nanny cam footage, her face clear as day, taking the bag from my house. "This ends now. Today." Her sobs stopped. She stared at the screen. Understanding dawning. "You're wired." "Everyone's wired," Lily said cheerfully, adding final touches to her portrait. "Even the nice lady at the table behind you who's been taking pictures of your purse." Melissa turned slowly. The FBI agent didn't bother to hide her camera anymore. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, pulling out a folder Tom had prepared. "You're going to tell the FBI everything. Names, routes, contacts, especially where they're holding Sophie. In exchange, they'll take your cooperation into account. Witness protection for you and your daughter." "They'll kill me." "They'll kill you anyway, eventually. But this way, Sophie has a chance." Melissa stared at the papers, then at Lily's drawing of the scarred man, then at me. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "I know," I said, and meant it. "But sorry doesn't undo the damage. This does." She picked up the pen with shaking fingers. "Will you—" She swallowed. "Will you tell Sophie about me? The truth, not what they'll say." I thought about family, about the bonds that tie us and the betrayals that break us, about second chances and burnt bridges. "We'll see," I said finally. "Sign the papers. Melissa." She signed. The moment ink hit paper, Tom stood from the bar and approached. Badge visible. Around us. Other agents moved into position. "Melissa Hartman," he said formally. "We need you to come with us. We have questions about your associates, and some very interested federal agents who'd like to discuss getting your daughter back." She stood on unsteady legs, then looked down at Lily. "Your drawings. How did you know? How could you possibly know about Sophie?" Lily considered the question seriously. Sometimes, when people are thinking really hard about someone they love, it shows. You were thinking about her all the time, even when you were doing bad things. She tore out the portrait of the scarred man and handed it to Tom. "For your files." Then she tore out another page, one I hadn't seen her draw. It showed a young girl with Melissa's features but softer, kinder somehow, playing in a garden full of sunshine. "For you," she told Melissa, "so you remember what you're fighting for." Melissa clutched the drawing to her chest and let Tom lead her away. Through the window, I watched them put her in an unmarked car. She looked back once, raising her hand to the glass. I didn't wave back, but Lily did. "Think they'll find Sophie?" my daughter asked as sirens faded into the distance. "Yeah," I said, pulling her close. "I think they will." We sat there a while longer, surrounded by federal agents wrapping up their operation, gathering evidence, taking statements, justice grinding into motion. Lily pulled out her pad again and started a new drawing. This one showed our house, but bright and welcoming. No shadows, no strangers, just home. "We can go back now, right?" she asked. "It's safe." "It's safe, baby. We're going home." And for the first time in 48 hours, I actually believed it. The story broke on the evening news 3 days later. I sat with Lily on our couch, her head against my shoulder, as we watched the footage unfold, federal agents escorting handcuffed suspects from various locations. The scarred man, whose name turned out to be Vincent Kozloff, led away from a warehouse in Phoenix. My mother's shocked face as reporters ambushed her outside the ranch, demanding to know if she was aware of her daughter's involvement in a multi-state drug trafficking ring. 27 arrests across 4 states, the anchor reported. The organization used family members as unwitting drug mules, exploiting their trust and clean criminal records to move product across state lines. The camera cut to footage of Melissa being led into federal court, her designer clothes replaced with a simple gray suit. She looked smaller somehow, deflated. But there was something else in her posture relief. Maybe. The exhaustion of someone who'd finally stopped running. The breakthrough came when a young mother and her 8-year-old daughter reported suspicious activity to local law enforcement. The anchor continued. Their cooperation was instrumental in unraveling the entire operation. They didn't name us. Tom had made sure of that. We were safe, anonymous, just another family who'd refused to be victims. My phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, then saw the photo attachment. A young girl with brown hair and green eyes, sitting in what looked like a hospital bed, holding a teddy bear. Alive, safe. The message read simply, "Sophie is home. Thank you, M." I showed Lily, who smiled and returned to her drawing. She'd been creating a series all week, butterflies, hundreds of them, in every color imaginable, filling page after page with wings and light. "Mom," she said suddenly, "I've been thinking about what happened, about how Aunt Melissa knew I could see things, feel things." I'd been wondering the same thing. "What do you think?" "I think it runs in families, like eye color or being good at math." She added antennae to a particularly vibrant monarch. "I think maybe Sophie has it too, and that's why they kept her to control Aunt Melissa better, because they knew Melissa would never risk someone who was special like that." My brilliant girl, always seeing connections others missed. The news moved on to other stories, but I kept thinking about family patterns, about gifts passed down through generations, about my mother, who always seemed to know when someone was lying, about Melissa, who could read people well enough to manipulate them, about Lily, who saw through it all. Tom called an hour later. "Thought you'd want to know Kozlov flipped. Gave up the entire operation in exchange for a deal. Sophie wasn't the only child they were holding. FBI found 6 others, all safe now. And Melissa. Looking at 5 to 10, minimum, but with her cooperation in the circumstances." He paused. "She'll be out in time to see Sophie graduate high school." It wasn't enough. It was too much. It was justice, imperfect and painful. After I hung up, I found Lily in her room, surrounded by her drawings from the past week. She'd arranged them in a timeline, the dark, frightening images from before our trip, the detailed evidence that had helped break the case. And now these butterflies, spreading across her floor like hope taking flight. I want to send these to Sophie, she said, the butterfly ones, so she knows that even after dark times, beautiful things can happen. I helped her pack them carefully, addressing the package to Tom, who'd make sure it reached the right hands. As we worked, Lily asked, "Do you think we'll ever see them again, Aunt Melissa and Sophie?" "I don't know, baby. Maybe someday?" "I think we will," she said with that quiet certainty I'd learned to trust. "But not for a long time. And that's okay. Sometimes families need space to heal." That night, I tucked her into her own bed, in her own room, in our own safe house. No bags by the door. No strangers in the shadows. No family obligations twisted into weapons against us. "Mom," Lily said as I turned off the light, "I'm glad we turned around." "Me too, sweetheart. And I'm glad I told you, even though I was scared you wouldn't believe me." I sat on the edge of her bed, smoothing her hair. "I'll always believe you, Lily, always." She smiled, already drifting toward sleep. "I know. That's our superpower. Right, trusting each other." "Yeah," I whispered. "That's our superpower." I stayed until her breathing deepened, then made my way to the living room, through the window. I could see our quiet street, peaceful under the stars. Somewhere out there, Sophie was learning what it meant to be free. Melissa was learning what it meant to face consequences. And scattered across 4 states, other families were discovering that their trust had been weaponized against them. But here, in this moment, we were safe. We were whole. We were home. My phone lit up with a message from a reporter asking for our story. I deleted it without reading. Some stories weren't meant for the world. Some victories were private, precious, protected. Outside, a nightbird called, and another answered, in her room. Lily stirred but didn't wake, probably dreaming of butterflies and brave girls and families that chose truth over blood. I picked up one of her drawings, a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis, wings still wet but ready to fly. At the bottom, in her careful handwriting, she'd written, "Sometimes the scariest moment is right before you become who you're meant to be." My 8-year-old philosopher, my tiny warrior, my daughter who saw too much but chose to see beauty anyway. I pinned the drawing to our refrigerator, right where the morning sun would hit it. A reminder that we'd survived, that we'd chosen each other over easy lies, that sometimes turning the car around was the bravest thing you could do. The house settled around us, creaking gently in the desert wind. Safe. Home. Ours. And in the distance, barely visible against the stars, a butterfly rested on our garden gate wings spread wide, ready for whatever came next. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this tale, and I'd really appreciate hearing your thoughts. What would you have done in Rachel's situation? Have you ever had to trust your instincts against all logic? Share your experiences. I read every comment and love engaging with all of you.